Welcome, everybody. And it is such a privilege and a joy to be with all of you tonight, to be able to reflect a bit on that incredible film, End of the Line, with Phyllis Young, who you all saw in the film, and her incredible role in this movement for many, many decades. Along here with Phyllis is the director of the film, Shannon Kring. And my name is Marie Barry. I'm a professor at the University of Denver. And I just want to reiterate what an honor it is to be with both of you, to have a conversation about this film, which is so deeply important, relevant, powerful, and a beautiful testament to the incredible work that so many women and Indigenous communities did to resist the Dakota Access Pipeline and continue to resist while maintaining the importance of water as life. Phyllis, I want to ask you to share with us what has been going on since the film wrapped. The film ends during Trump's administration. And of course, we are recording this in 2021. We have a new administration, but I know that many of the struggles are still ongoing, and there are ongoing court cases related to the events and DAPL that you were very involved with. Can you share with us updates since the film ended?
So we continue with litigation, and we have a hearing tomorrow on the determination of the continuing of the pipeline. And our youth just returned to a homecoming this morning in front of the tribal building, and they had blessings and Thanksgiving, and they're going on to Mandan, Hidatsa nations up north to request their chairman to help us stop the pipeline, because they have been very active participants, because they are directly in the Bakken field, the oil field. So we continue. We have filed in 2018 historic lawsuits, 10 lawsuits on the return of the land, which is the taken area, which the law said in Public Law 85915, 1958, that all land not used for public purpose will be returned to the tribe. So we've been doing that since 2000, since 1980. So we're going to we submitted during Trump's administration, December of 2018, and we did not get a response. And that called for administrative dialogue, dispute resolution, and of course, before we would file a lawsuit, we would exhaust those measures, and there was no response. In the meantime, we had 2 executive orders from Trump against us, and then we had a gag order that the BIA would not be in touch with tribes or Indian organizations, that would be directly with the policy office in the White House, while they also determined that Standing Rock were all the bad guys by public policy. So we come from being prisoners of war, which Obama declared that we are no longer, and we were allowed to pursue our lawsuits and claims. And so there are hunting and fishing claims for no less than $400 million. There are mineral rights for $55 million. The hydropower is $5 billion. And so the return of the land is primary, which represents 20,000 acres. So we have 10 lawsuits that were filed against DAPL. And I wanted to post the treaty provision that says for any utility that crosses Indian territory, there will be an assessment. So we incorporated social impact assessment for our front yard. And then we also look at trespass. So since August of 2015, the tribe has a tolling fee of $5 million a day for since August 2015. So that now exceeds $10 billion. So we're following the tenets of the treaty. And so we have the lawsuit for the EIS, the Environmental Impact Statement. Right now, I'm very, we're dealing with an issue of the Army Corps making us a cooperating agency, when in fact that would be a conflict of interest because we are still in the litigation. So we'll know tomorrow what the determination is. I never bank on victorious more than a fleeting moment. So because the President of the United States has an oath of office and an obligation to the national standards of this country. So we are accustomed to fighting our way to find our own principles of democracy. So we continue with the youth just came back from their second trip to the presidency, asking Biden with 400,000 signatures to shut down the pipeline. So proactive things that we're doing. When we had the original EIS, it was 500,000 comments from all over the world or country. And so the EIS that we're looking at is very specific to cultural. So the Army Corps has created a 35 tribal membership to move forward with recommendations. But to me, it's like co-opting our movement and diluting the rights that we're trying to exert here. So that's my opinion, and I will be steadfast and unwavering in my opinion.
I think that skepticism seems very well placed, and yet I'm so encouraged and impressed to hear all the remarkable work that you and others are doing to continue this fight. I wonder whether you could tell us, Phyllis, about whether anything has changed, with the Biden administration. Is there more optimism amongst you and others? I know there's healthy reasons to be deeply kind of pessimistic as well, but do you see areas of progress and of hope in securing this land and other ongoing struggles for land for Indigenous communities across the U.S.?
I think that the Biden administration, Biden gave us hope, definitely, and the rallying campaign for Deb Haaland to come here. I mean, she came to our Ochete Shakoi camp and cooked for us, ground zero. She's absolutely a champion. As well as Ocasio-Cortez. So we honor them, we praise them for acknowledging the struggle. And so for them to become congressional reps gives us hope. Our treaty obligation, our treaty partnership is with the United States Congress. And so for them to be there is meaningful, but also as women. And so we also had Jody Gillette, who was in the White House, and we know the experience of taking on a national position. You have to forego your citizenship of your village and your identity as Indigenous. So you become a national obligation first, and anything that goes to your own people is a conflict of interest. So we realize what she has given up to be a good American and a national cabinet member. So we're eternally optimistic about the good human beings that we can find amongst us. As I said, I have been spoiled good by those human beings who were my heroes in my lifetime. When you look for them, you find them, you acknowledge that fleeting moment of bliss, no matter how short. It's victorious. You celebrate it to reinvigorate your spirit.
That's tremendous. Yeah, thank you so much for that. And Phyllis and Shannon, perhaps you want to jump in here as well. But one of the things you just mentioned is the pride in the women that have been so fundamental in forging this movement in spite of tremendous violence and opposition from both the Dakota Access Corporation, but also from the militarized responses that we saw directed at Standing Rock protesters during over the course of many months. There was a moment in the film that my jaw dropped, which was when I believe Pearl Daniel Means said, "A nation isn't defeated until the hearts of the women are on the ground." And there was something embedded in that quote to me that captured the resilience and the deeply powerful strength of women that came through so beautifully in the film. I wanted to ask you both what it meant to focus the film on women, Shannon, and Phyllis, what it means when you see women, as you mentioned, kind of taking up these struggles and forging the movements, whether it's in the political system or in the streets or in their communities, for a more free, kind of more just future.
I can start. When I set out to make this film, when I actually got to Standing Rock the first time, I had intended to tell a very broad story and try to get as many voices as possible. And after the end of the first day of shooting, I had all but 2 interviews with women. I had no idea that women were the backbone of this movement, and it just became so clear. And I said to my co-producer, Pearl Means, at the end of the first day, "I think this is supposed to be just about the women." And she said, "Duh." She said, that's what we do as women. And that was really mind-blowing to me, that the women are the guardians and protectors of the water, and then the men assist the women and protect them in that action. And to me, that was fascinating. It was also extremely fascinating to see the difference in women who are leading something like this, who are standing up against violence. They had this gentle fierceness, this nurturing, loving way of being, where they were nurturing all of us, and at the same time having this strength and fierceness that I've never seen before. Phyllis was just steadfast out there, as you saw in the film, and it seemed to me that the more resistance there was, the more opposition and horrible things that happened, she just kept getting stronger and more energy. And I think it was inspiring to everyone, and especially to the younger women, who this might have been their first action that they'd ever participated in. And yeah, I learned so much about how to be an authentically empowered woman in any circumstance.
It's tremendous, Shannon. Phyllis, do you have any reflections on what that meant to focus on women in the film, but also how the movement really captured, as Shannon said, that sort of gentle fierceness that I noticed in the film, the way in which kind of love and care became so substantive in the women that were featured. It didn't have to look like kind of violent aggression or anything like that. It was about strength and power in that sense, in that commitment to community, to resilience, to love. I wonder if you have any kind of other things to share with us about what that meant for you.
I think it was always a part of our spirit, our DNA, and that's a Cheyenne proverb that we used as our theme as a co-founder of the Women of All Red Nations in 1978, having marched in the Trail of Broken Treaties in 1972, seeking legislation. 20 points we went to DC, and we addressed the Indian Child Welfare Act, which was to stop the adopting out of our people. And one of the 7 rights we have is hunka, we adopt in. So we're the only people in the world who can pick and choose our relatives and find the best
Mm.
out there. So that's incredible for principle that we have. And we have always been subdued, and the policy for prohibiting our language and our policies was active from 1910 to 1978, till the Congress acknowledged and did away with the policy by creating the American Indian Religious Freedom Act in 1978. So we're very young. We're only 40 years old, at the top of our adolescence. And it was very simple for us to preach. And we had to walk our talk in terms of who we are. Dakota or Lakota means friend or ally. And you put a W-O in front of it, Wo Lakota, Wo Dakota means peace. We have a beautiful spiritual language that America is ready for, to balance out the toxic environment across the board. So along with that, we get to exercise our psyche, our genetic psyche, because we have Wope. And Wope means natural law, means the law. And she is female. So we've always had it in our heart, our minds, and our spirits of who we are. And when you get a divorce, you just put a suitcase outside and there's no paperwork. When you punish, it's not so punitive as it is humiliating. So we have now to fill an empty customary box, customary law that is empty. And so we are just now blooming as a natural aspect of the universe. And so connecting. So it's a beautiful feeling to just calmly tell the world, this is the beauty of our culture, and we're ready to promote it, preach it, and we're putting it on hard drives to put it in our communities, the 7 values, the basic belief systems of our people. So, and in sync with the age of Aquarius, we're at the age of women in our culture, which is the circle that represents eternity. So it's perpetual. So, and that goes for peace and growth and the future. So it's not the end of the world. In our belief system, we don't have an ending. We only have a beginning. So there's only one place to go. And who's to say what the universal changes will be out there, whether it's the sun becoming a nova, whether anything happens in the negative. The climate change is absolute purification. So we're connected with the Oyate, the Wakia Oyate, with what everyone refers to as the weather. So those are the most powerful beings in the universe. And so as we develop our technology, we're partnering with Ampetui, the sun, the light. And so we have the 5th dimension, we have the 6th sense. So we're moving assertively forward in a good and positive manner, and blooming from within. And our children get to say their language. I didn't grow up with that language because it was prohibited. My grandfather was a code talker, and I was always afraid for him because he always talked so loud. And my grandmother would say, in our language, he's not afraid, but we didn't know he was a code talker. So he is very proud of his language. But so with that, we get to exercise Wo Lakota, Wo Dakota in that camp. And it was hard to tell our children, who we raised in the American Indian movement, who have a history of resistance at Wounded Knee in 73, who were victorious militarily in 1876. When you have the history of being warriors, of being women warriors, there are women who held the pipe, who wore headdress, who were in the battle at the Little Bighorn. So we come from an egalitarian society, and we also had very distinct roles as women. So Fool's Crow called a national meeting in 1970, and he determined that we had to take the spiritual Sundance away from the circus, and take that back, take our children back, take the waters back. So the women, we did the studies for the water back in 1980. We kept Union Carbide out of the Black Hills in 1980. So having that warrior spirit, having that collective memory of who we really are that was given to us by the absolute free people, our predecessors, reinstated our genetic psyche, and we continue.
Amazing, Phyllis. And I think, I know we are short on time, and I don't want to keep you, and I don't know if you even have a few more minutes, but if I could ask another question about that. Everything that you talked about in terms of that harmony and interconnectedness, and in the movie, in the film, it comes that what you talked about as kind of the kind of feminine power of the wind, which sweeps into the camp one day, in this context of tremendous hostility and violence, coming from the kind of the private security contractors and this kind of militarized resistance. It reminded me of one of the themes in the film that I found to be really powerful, which was the solidarity that seemed to exist across nations, within kind of Native American communities that were present in Standing Rock, but also beyond, that stretched beyond kind of the United States to Palestine, to the movement for Black lives, globally. And even to the kind of solidarity and kind of harmony that was talked about in the film with the ecology and the nature in which people were inhabiting, while in Standing Rock. And I'm wondering how solidarity matters for your work and for your movement and this work going forward. How can people watching the film be, kind of supportive, and stand in solidarity with the work that you're doing, and is that something that is important and something we should work to build?
I believe that our people, our way of life, our belief systems, and our connection with the Wakia Oyate, all of the tenets of the world, the entire universe, just says who we are. We are a universal people. We are a pluralistic society, and we came to a new threshold of what we were taught to do, and that was to preach and teach the good things, the beautiful part of we have so much beauty in our language and our culture that we've been stymied for so long that we don't have a law that says do not discriminate against that Black man or that yellow man, but we do have a tenet, a belief that says treat everyone alike. And so we're always reminded to treat everyone alike, and that's every child. I mean, for our children to be called Wakaija is a sacred being, and so we need to take back the cultural competency ourselves, starting at ground zero. So therefore, the hard drive that goes into the family systems, the dysfunction, the toxicity of our own society, of every social pathology in every village, we have to answer to our children first. That's the most basic principle in our organizational structure as women, as mothers, is tiwahe, our family. You have your nuclear family. We have our tiwahe, which is not one boy and one girl, but it's our family, and family first. You do not move in your community or your neighborhood until your family is in order. So mentally, physically, spiritually. And so we have a spiritual base that was denied us. We're just now young adolescents that are moving forward. And so we attained a new threshold, and it was universal. It's our own, but it applies to all humanity. So we're now on a development course for solar, for all of the Wakia Oyate, acknowledging the sun. So we is sun, we is moon, we Chakchala is man, we Nushchala is woman. So we are all interconnected with the universe. And so wind, she is Tate, she is the female of the Wakia Oyates. And she doesn't listen to anyone. She likes to play. She's mischievous. And so when you're shaking out your blankets and your rugs, say a prayer to her, because she'll come and play. And so she's an incredible force. And I myself have been lifted up by her and thrown to the ground and had to go to ER. So I'm trying to get my prayers to her to be gentle with me and with the world. So there's a cleansing going on with that circle right now. And so in the development, we have a major wind development here on Betui. I serve as the vice chair of this new development for wind energy to provide the energy to all of Standing Rock and the region.
Amazing. That's so incredible and powerful. Thank you for sharing. Shannon, I just want to turn to you for any final thoughts, and also just kind of out of curiosity of what you hope this film does for the conversation that on these topics of profound women's leadership and movements for change, and the importance of water, and the importance of challenging these extractive industries. I mean, all of this comes through in the film. What do you hope the film can do, and any final thoughts?
Well, all of those things that you mentioned were goals, but even more than that for me was that people around the world could see this film, and especially white people in westernized societies who are still ignorant to what has been done and continues to be done to people like Phyllis and her family and all of her people. People wrote us from all around the world when we started releasing our little video shorts in order to crowdfund to make this film a reality. People saying, I had no idea that happened, and I'm so sorry that happened. And we just heard, from thousands of people who said things like that. And I think it's really important, if we want any hope of all of us as a collective to survive in this world, we have to start honoring all people and the environment. But if we don't acknowledge what's been done in the past, and at least try to, as best as we can, atone for that, I don't see that there's any hope. And so my goal is to get this film seen by as many people as possible, to get it into the school system. Right now, we're running a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo to raise, to create teacher guides for middle school, high school, and university students, because we think that this will open discussion. We know it will open discussions and raise awareness. And, we've been blocked every step of the way. Our Facebook account, we can't even post on our own account right now. We've been locked out for political reasons. I've been battling that for 11 months now, trying to be able to post on my own pages. And there have been other forms of resistance. And to me, this is something also that I've learned from Phyllis, to me that says we're doing something right. When there's that kind of opposition, then, hey, I'm doing my job. And I will continue to do my job to honor the work of people such as Phyllis, who have given their lives to create a better world for all of us.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
Can I just add, I dedicate this movie to Red Fawn from Denver, who is my niece, and I escorted her home, took her back, and I love her dearly. She served 4.5 years in prison. Hopefully we can go to pardon and to Oh, I'm having a senior moment. We're creating our own amnesty, Indigenous amnesty. So we're doing our Indigenous court. And so I dedicate this to the women who have not met their endurance and have passed on because of the pain that was inflicted upon their bodies and their mental states. And to those who are sick today, we pray for them. But this movie is for those women who suffered and endured the pain of this struggle, because it does get to you. And to Red Fawn, I love you. We love you. Forever you will be following Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse in their spirit, because you have gone to prison for our people, and it's an illegal permit. Thank you.
Absolutely. What an honor to have this conversation with both of you. Thank you, Phyllis, for your remarkable strength and tireless work over so many years, and Shannon, for bringing these stories to an audience that needs to hear them. It struck me so profoundly in the film to hear about the kind of ongoing kind of ways in which these types of violence and oppression are rooted in the very foundation of the United States. And the structure of this oppression continues. And resistance and resilience is also something that has been around always. And what a beautiful example to shine the light on the women of Standing Rock, because their stories are so inspiring, and I think, as you said, absolutely need to be told.